What's going on, guys? Doing another 5-minute how-to on Pete's Garage. Now, I'll be honest, guys, this video is going to be longer than 5 minutes. It's a 2-hour job, so bear with me. We'll try to keep it down to 10 minutes. So in 10 minutes, I'm going to show you how to do a 2-hour job, and that is Hyundai Santa Fe. Now, this is not just the Santa Fe. This covers Hyundai 2.7 liter and 3.3 liter V6s, all right? So we're going to hop right into it. You know how I roll. Snap, snap, snap. No one wants to hear me talk. So, engine cover comes off. 2, 4, 6, 10 mil bolts. That is going to expose you to this part. Now, you'll notice there is a manifold over the rear spark plugs. The manifold does have to come off. This is about a 2-hour job. Granted, might take you longer if you're an amateur, but here's your coils in the front. 2, 4, 6, 1, 3, 5. That is how this engine is set up. Not that you needed to know that, shared it with you anyway. So what you're gonna do, there's little gray clips on here. You guys see that little gray tab? You gotta pull that backwards. See how that one's still stuck in? You gotta pull it backwards, and then you gotta squeeze on the little tab to release the coil. You got 10 mil bolts holding the coils in, so once you take the connector off and the 10 mil out, you will expose yourself to be able to take the coil out and then the spark plug underneath. Very simple stuff. Now, as far as the manifold, we're going to show you how to blow through that really quick without taking apart everything. Next, get yourself some lighting so you can actually see. All right, so as you'll notice, you got a harness that wraps around this way, and it's bolted to the manifold. Anything touching this manifold needs to come off, including the air intake. So the boot's going to have to come off there. Okay, the air box you can completely get rid of. I'm going to end up pulling the whole thing just because it's easier, okay? But then very simple, 1, 2. So you got 2 bolts here. You got more on the back side, and then you got the lower perimeter bolts that hold the front of the intake down. Those all have to come off, okay? Hyundais are very, very simple. You got 8 mil, 10 mil, 12 mil, 14, 17, 21. I mean, that you can literally work on the whole car with those tools. So I already took these off. So this harness is loose, as you can see, right? Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take this intake off. 10 mil, 10 mil. Actually, that's an 8 back there. But you're gonna have to pull this hose off either here or down here at the valve cover. Oftentimes it is easier right here at the valve cover. Pull the intake boot, so we'll knock that out quick. All right, let's see if I can do this one-handed. So we got that off. We're gonna pull this off the intake boot, or you're gonna break the air box. All right, so might be a good idea, take your lid off first, lift this up. Now I'm gonna try to, well, it's all heat soaked. It hasn't been apart in a very long time. So what we're probably gonna need to do is get a screwdriver under here. Yes, and I saw that. We're gonna get a screwdriver under here and we're gonna pry that off. Yours is probably going to be stuck just like mine. All you got to do is get a screwdriver under in one spot. Slowly work your way around. It's going to help loosen it up, because the last thing you want to do is break the air box. All right, she's separated. Now it should be pretty loose on the throttle body. You're going to yank backwards. Okay, here's your intake boot. Very simple. Airbox lid has a mass airflow. Obviously, you don't want to yank that off. We don't really need it completely out of the way. We can leave it right there if we really want. It will make it easier if you move it. Next thing's next. This harness, right? You got to loosen the tension off this. So you're going to take this 10 mil off right here. Once you take this 10 mil off, you're going to take that 10 mil off. You don't really have to, but essentially what we're going to do is we're going to fold the manifold over. I'll show you here in a second. We're going to flip it. So don't take the throttle body off. Don't start going crazy. This hose right here does need to come off. So take this hose off Take this 10 mil off. I'm going to take that 10 mil off. We'll have a ton of slack in the harness. We'll be able to flip it. All right, harness has slack in it. That's what we want, just like that. Grab your 12. Ooh, we got a tight one. So those you might need to break by hand, but you guys get the point. Pull these out so they don't fall down. Pull all of them out. Because if they fall down in the valley, you're going to have a very, very bad time pulling them out. So there's those. All right, again, we're going to have to hit those by hand. The other thing you need to watch for, there's harnesses that are connected to the backside of the manifold. So I'm going to show you that in a second. All right, we're on the backside of the manifold. Do not make the mistake of fighting all those connectors. There's a 10 mil back here. Zip it out. Just like such, little 12, set her down. Now, you can take this bracket, pull it right off the back side of the manifold. Next thing's next, this connector, squeeze and pull. Okay, so we got that popped off. Now, if you feel under here, we're free behind the manifold, just about, except for there's more on the other side. But on this side, anything that's connecting the manifold to the block, you need to remove. So, that being said, right now we're in pretty good shape here. We're going to come around on this side. I'm going to show you some more stuff. So the throttle body, you'll see there's coolant hoses that connect it to the bottom, okay? Throttle body, unless you want to drain coolant, throttle body's coming off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 mils. Throttle body comes this way, gets pulled right off. That being said, you would have had to remove this anyway. Now, once the throttle body's off, you're going to pull this hose off. It's got a little clamp up here. So once you pull that hose off, there's no longer a hose connected to it. Next, I stand corrected. For some strange reason, one of the throttle body bolts is a 12. Super weird. Anyways, once you got all those bolts out, actually, you know what? There's just a 12 you got to move out of the way. Still 10s. So anyways, losing time here. This one. Okay, now they're nuts. Yep, there goes one. You see it right in the bottom there? You got to be careful not to lose these nuts. You'll have a bad day. And not these nuts like the meme. They're actually nuts that you will lose forever. All right, recap. All the perimeter bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those out, these 2, 6, 7. The back bracket, the hose right here, the throttle body's loose. The bracket that's on the back side of this is now removed so that we're not going to tug on it. Airbox completely out of the way. Most of the accessories out of the way. Well, first of all, you're going to pull this harness out of the way. And then you're going to lift up. Or at least try. Okay, now I'm going to slide the throttle body off. Turns out these will absolutely have to come off because you can see they're now causing tension. Remove the connectors, dose, see if we can get some more free play out of her. Still caught on something. And that would be this little hose right here. So grab that little guy, pull her off. Okay, throttle body's off completely. I mean, at this point, you really could do your spark plugs this way. I mean, you got enough room for the most part. That being said, you take the booster hose off. Not gonna be easy, but there we go. Okay, now you do have enough room. Get your hands in there, but these injector plugs are not gonna want to come off very easily because they've never been off. So that one finally came. Got her to depress. There we go. And then, of course, we got an evap line. Evap line in the very back corner. that evap line has to come off the little port on the manifold there. Good news is once you have that evap line off and you followed all the other steps I just showed you, you can take the manifold, and not dump all the crud on it into the runners. Very carefully take it off. Okay, so manifold's off. Now some of you, oh, why'd you pull the throttle body? You wanna know why? Because when you screw around with these wires and with the cooling system, well, not as much fun that way. Let's just say that. I don't want to top the coolant off. I don't want air in the cooling system. And I don't want to mess with a 12-year-old Hyundai connector that is questionably going to come off. But here's what we do know. Throttle body's really dirty. Should probably clean it while you got it out. Okay, but that's off topic. Here's what we were after. We were after the plugs. 310s, same drill as the front. Now granted, when we started this video, I was one step ahead of you and I was already pulling plugs out. But that being said, pay attention to this kind of stuff. So we got a rubber grommet stuck in here that's got to go on the receiving connector, because I promise you, when you go to set that manifold back on, if you don't seat those injectors right, you're going to be taking this all back apart and you're not going to have a good time, I promise. So this is that bracket bolt that holds the back of the manifold. I always loosen them on the bottom so there's some wiggle room so that when you're setting the manifold on, you can, maneuver it, you can get it perfect, and then you can start the bolt. If you leave that rigid down there, twice the fight. So, again, pull the connectors off, pull the coils, you're all good to go. You put it back together in reverse order. Obviously, the first thing being the second you set the manifold on here, you need to start connecting those fuel injectors so you don't forget about them, okay? So, I'm not going to go through the procedure. If you don't know how to remove spark plugs out of an engine, you should not be doing this job. I know it's a little brash, but I'm just being real with you guys. So, that being said, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to swap these spark plugs. While they're out, I would recommend you test the coils. Now, if you don't know how to test a coil, you get a voltmeter, well, multimeter, I should say, and you put it on the ohm setting. Okay, so we'll go to ohms. We'll do our little fancy unwrap. Yeah, look at that. All right, so you're going to set the meter somewhere where you can read the screen. And then as you have it set there, again, ohm setting, okay? We're checking ohms. You're going to probe each pin, okay? Here, I'll show you. You're going to probe each of these pins in that coil, okay? Now, when you touch each one lead per one pin, you should get about 1 ohm, okay? That's hot. If you get open loop, or you get something like 6, 7, 8 ohms, or anything over 3, actually, coil's junk, get a new coil. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. And yes, I know we're going over our 10 minutes, but here's what I'm going to tell you. These coils are very easy to replace. Not a lot of disassembly. Now, if those coils need to be replaced and you put this all back together, well, guess what? Now you're taking it all back apart just to get a coil out. No one wants to do that. So, the other thing, I would highly recommend plugging these before you go any further. If you don't plug these and you drop something down there, depending on if the intake valve's open or not, you might be taking the motor apart. So, don't do that. First thing I'm going to do right now is stuff clean paper towels in them. What I'm not going to do is drag the paper towel over the gasket and knock all the crud into there, okay? So, I hope this video helps you guys. We're going to wrap this video up. You just pay attention to how we took it apart. That's how it goes back together. Make sure your gaskets are seated. Make sure everything's clean. Make sure that you at least look, if not, check the gap on your spark plugs before they go in there. And also, do not cheap out on spark plugs, okay? They should... What the heck is on there? Okay, we'll try this one. They should be... They all got a black mark on them. They should be NGK, IR, okay, iridiums. Here's the number. You can read it backwards on your screen if you really want. But don't cheap out on plugs, because you'll be doing them again sooner than you want to. And this isn't a hard job, but who wants to screw around with Hyundais? Not me. So All right, that's it for you guys. You've been watching Pete's Garage, and that's a wrap. Stay tuned, subscribe for more. Tons of more content coming out. More or less, we kind of work on stuff like that more than that. So, yeah, we'll see you later on.